Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Something that I've generally been doing as the season changed. Is now that we're officially in spring, well, spring-ish if you're in Calgary, especially the last few days, but it's not abnormal for Calgary to get more snow in March and April than in January and February, but spring has at least sprung, as now that the daylight hours is going to get longer until the summer solstice, and then the cycle repeats again. But I just figure it's time for another channel update, as I just want to give an update on what I plan to do and what I've discovered, especially the last few months, that as you evolve and change on YouTube, that there's just seems to be different ways to present content. I mean, obviously, most of my content is still going to be Calgary sports in this setting, where I do game recaps and stories, and then also my secondary content, which I've been a lot slower with my secondary content just because I've been much busier with hockey season back, recapping the Flames and including the Calgary Hitmen. But the way the season is looking right now for the Calgary Flames and the Calgary Hitmen, the Calgary Hitmen were only going to play 24 games for the 2020-21 season for obvious reasons, because we're still going through the global pandemic with COVID-19. But I don't think, regardless how well they do, I don't think there's going to be playoffs. But when it comes to the Calgary Flames, it's looking less likely that we are going to make the playoffs, and I'm anticipating that once hockey season is over, I'm going to probably get back into doing more personal blogs and attempt to comedy. I mean, I have a list. I have a list of several planned videos. It's just a matter of having time to do it. I mean, mostly if you just tune in my channel weekly, there's generally going to be new content, but mostly just what time allows. I can only make videos on the weekends. I try to sneak one in during the week if I have time, and if there's a major story. And of course, now that we're entering spring, there'll be the trade deadline coming up in the National Hockey League, so if the Flames do anything major, which might be more increasing the chance that could be happening between factoring in the expansion draft with the Seattle Kraken, and if the Flames aren't going to make the playoffs, and with the recent coaching change, there might be changes on the roster, but then you have to deal with the flat cap. But that's basically for a lot of my sports content. I mean, didn't have a Roughneck season this season in the NLL, and we'll have to wait until next season, hopefully, for the 2022 season. But if there's any other off-season news when it comes to the NLL and the Calgary Roughnecks, I'll make any videos on that. I mean, I'm probably going to just salvage something to have one episode for my Calgary Roughnecks this month for season 3, just so that everything is in line when season 4 comes around. And then the CFL is still a big mystery. I mean, there might be a few update videos that I plan to make here shortly based on what you're reading. I mean, obviously the latest buzz has been the CFL, XFL. They're at least been talking, and they made that video about my feelings on it, and could there potentially be a merger. But it actually is sounding like maybe there'll actually be games that are planned to actually play. So my Calgary Stampeders this month will likely won't be until the summer, where I can recap games, hopefully. But that's basically the gist of my sports content. And then, speaking of my other sports content, as a Calgary sports fan, I talk about the current teams, the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders. As I always like to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans' journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit likes and subscribe, as that's what I mostly do, and touched upon my other secondary content, like personal blogs, attempt at comedy, that I think if hockey season ends a little earlier to my liking, and we're waiting for, if there's actually going to be football later, that I think I'll have more time to do my secondary content. But getting back to what I was about to touch on, is I still have 4 more episodes to go in my Remember the Calgary series, where I've been obviously a lot busier with, doing the... I'm going to be still experimenting a lot more, and I have more encouragement that I'll touch on that. I'm going to try to do more of on-the-go vlogging. But going back to my Remember the Calgary series, I have been looking and working on my notes for at least the next 2 episodes, where I've gone up to 22 episodes. Well, the 4 episodes I still have left to do. In my Remember the Calgary series, we were talking about Calgary sports teams in the past. Well, episode 23, which I'm planning on doing here very shortly, is I'm going to be talking about the Calgary Vipers. Remember the Calgary Vipers? And then episode 24, I think I'll touch upon the team that I think most Calgary sports fans miss the most, with the Calgary Cannons. So I'm thinking with spring officially upon us, with the spring training happening in the major leagues, and they're going to be starting the regular season here next week. That'd be a perfect time for me to talk about those baseball teams. So I have the Calgary Vipers. I'm almost ready to get my notes and relics ready for that. And I'm thinking if everything goes as planned, I can get the Vipers episode up shortly. And then I'm thinking over the Easter weekend as an Easter treat. Not promising, but around there is I'll get my Calgary Canyons episode. That'll be episode 24. And I'm looking forward to getting those. And that's, touching upon those teams. And then the last 2 episodes in my Remember the Calgary series for episode 25, I'm going to talk about Stampede Wrestling. And then episode 26, I'll just put a final recap on the whole series. What I might want to try to do, if I can stitch it together, take a bit, is the question that I always have to ask at the start of the video. But when I gave my introduction video, I think it was after the Victoria Day long weekend last year in 2020 that I announced I was going to start the Remember the Calgary series. I was thinking it was going to take a year or 2, but if I can finish the series in the spring, that would be great. So it has allowed me to look at Calgary sports teams in the past and document it as best as I can. So that is still coming, but I was a lot busier in the winter when hockey season's back, but I also did take in the Chinook Blast Winter Festival the first year, which allowed me to start experimenting on what I'm going to call my personal vlogs. In that playlist is still going to be me at home in this setting or on the road. Occasionally I've done one on the road, or let's say I'm in a hotel room, or wherever I am, I'll do a personal vlog where I'll talk about whatever's on my mind and not what is the video is all about. That's hit or miss. It is what it is, but I'm planning on doing more on-the-go vlogging, and I've already have some examples of that. And you know what? Maybe slowly I might enjoy the fruits of my labor with that. Where I did the Chinook Blast, I just share my pictures and stories in those videos. There was 3 weekends of it in the first year in Calgary, which Calgary's planning on that being like its midwinter roundup. Temper expectations if you went to the Chinook Blast in the first year of it. It was still during COVID and restrictions were still in place, but I'm also thinking if Chinook Blast was able to happen outside, it was mostly outside, and 99% of the people were wearing masks. If that can still happen, we can have a Calgary Stampede this year, can we? Maybe not have any indoor events, but have something for the Stampede. Just throw it out there. But the other on-the-go vlogging that I've done is I felt it was important for me to document and share my experiences with the Calgary Stampede Demolition, which I already had 4 videos on that. And actually, as of this recording, I actually had a student from Mount Royal University actually reached out to me and said I enjoyed it, and we exchanged emails, and I'm going to still have my interview and talking about the video. Apparently the student that reached out to me said it was an assignment for a broadcasting student for Mount Royal University, that they were going to do a documentary on Calgarians' reactions to demolition of old buildings. And it did tug at me a little for the Calgary Stampede, knowing that the demolition was going to happen to the old Stampede Corral, and it still blows my mind, still thinking about it, that when we got the Calgary Flames from Atlanta, back when they wore these, when they moved from Atlanta, and still wear these again, thankfully, but when they moved from Atlanta before the Saddledome was built, NHL hockey was played in there, but much of the history of the Stampede Corral predates me, but I still felt it tugged at my heartstrings knowing that a piece of Calgary history was gone. And I just felt it was important for me to document it and share it on here, and obviously it piques the interest to the someone from the Mount Royal University to talk to me, and probably as various others if there's an assignment about So stay tuned for that, or I'll maybe share a recap or a follow up from the interview, or if there's any thing that comes out of it, maybe I could point you to that video if they make a video. We'll see. But I'm going to say that is going to encourage me to make more of those kind of videos, because last weekend I also, because of the longest off season ever when it comes to the CFL, the Canadian Football League, when it talks about that the 2020 season was canceled, I felt I had to make my way out to McMahon Stadium just to walk around the the whole site, and the fact that there's recent redevelopment plans in place that maybe Foothill Stadium is going to eventually get demolished. It's running in decay right now, where, for example, going back to remember the Calgary series where the Vipers and the Cannons used to play. Well, that ballpark is hardly used now, other than occasionally the University of Calgary Dinos baseball team, but there's redevelopment plans. And what I did in my Calgary Stampede Demolition video is that it's just prepared me for being able to do some of that, document the progress of demolition or any redevelopment plans. Is that there is redevelopment plans in place for, they call it the Foothills McMahon Stadium redevelopment. So that's going to prepare me to eventually maybe capture your content out there. And then with the Calgary Stampede Demolition of the Stampede Corral, all part of the BMO Center expansion, as we definitely need a bigger, convention center for the BMO Center expansion. And at that same time, when that's being expanded, I am planning on also going down to document the construction of the new event center, where eventually is going to be the new home of the Calgary Flames, as well as the Hitmen and the Roughnecks, which that's also going to prepare me for the eventual, if you look at city plans, that the Saddledome is going to be eventually demolished in the long-term plans, and that's going to prepare me for that, if I still plan on doing this. But I am planning on doing more of those videos, because what I have seen so far is that I have been able to get more watch time in those videos, and it's just my style of taking pictures, put a video in, take more pictures, put the video in, and just me, doing a kind of monologue, just sharing my experience and what I'm feeling at the time of the site. So I'm planning on doing more of those type of videos over time. And then, the beauty of having a smartphone, you can just click and grab and go and just stitch everything together to make your videos. So I'm planning on doing more of those videos. That's going to be, I'm going to be different from my personal vlog, which I say, it's just I talk about whatever's on my mind. And I'm in a fixed location, either let's say at home, or let's say if I'm on the road, and hopefully we'll get to do that sooner rather than later. But on the go vlogging, I'm planning on doing more of that, because I enjoy doing that. It allows me to, get out, be more active, and who knows, we can bump into, or who knows what your videos could contact. And that's what I so far have gotten from my Calgary Stampede Demolition videos, that if everything works out with the, the interview or the meeting on Google Meet that's going to be used, it'll be nice to help a fellow, university student out with their assignment, and then it helps me out on potentially getting more interest and exposure on my channel, so everybody wins that way. That's just kind of like my channel update. I mean, that now that we're into spring, that my sports content is still going to continue, but I think looking at the landscape right now and how our hockey teams are doing with both the schedule and performance-wise, I think hopefully for football later in the summer, that I think I might have a little more time to touch upon my other secondary content. And of course, going back to the vlogging, I'm always open to suggestions. If anyone has a site that I can go to, and if I have any interest in it, I can go touch upon it. I mean, another thing that I might plan to do is that, well, I grew up in the Northeast in Calgary. Now I live right near St. I mean, my heart is always in the Northeast in Calgary. It's just my life isn't anymore, but I'm almost thinking that I might try to do a little documentation, share experiences from when I was in the Northeast. That could be something I might plan to do down the road over a few weekends and maybe stitch something together with that. So yeah, that's just kind of my ramble about a channel update now that we're in the spring, and hopefully you still enjoy my content, and as I always keep evolving, changing, trying a few different things. And that's why I said the vlogging that I always said, when I've gone on site, let's say at the Calgary Stampede Corral Demolition, or last week when I was at the McMahon Stadium, it just allows me a chance to experiment and see how it goes. But I'll just close out as I always say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, like recapping games and stories. I know that there's a few more game recap videos due for both the Calgary Flames and the Calgary Hitmen, as we are going in the stretch drive for the NHL for the 2020-21 season. Hopefully eventually get into playoffs, but gotta get realistic when it comes to the Calgary Flames right now. But I also do a variety of non-sports content. If sports is not your thing, like personal vlogs, I talk about anything that's on my mind, and I do have a list of still 50 that I plan to do. It's just a matter of having time to put it in and attempt a comedy. It is what it is. You try to be funny, and last week, where my attempt at comedy, let's just say I stick to the low-hanging fruit. Talk about a particular subject that you'll see. I've done 24 attempt at comedies, but I had a story that I still find funny that I shared from over 30 years ago that is in that video. And I've also tried to start doing clip videos where I take clips from all my favorite clips from videos from the past. I think that lunchroom story, if you watch my attempt at comedy 24, about what I talked about getting in trouble for just farting, that might eventually make it in a clip. Just when I talked about that lunchroom story. And of course I also do share my experiences with them on the road or a sport event. This for recently with these on the road vlogs, but other things, if I happen to, let's say this COVID thing will ever end and finally go on vacation, let's say my favorite site in the Canadian Rockies, Mount Robson, I definitely am dying to see that site again. So if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, what you need to do, just make sure you like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below for other ways you can follow me, like on Twitter. I have Instagram, and then slowly here and there I make TikToks, which I know that I'm thinking I'm a little older for that, but then I have a generic Facebook channel page where I just put any plans that I do and share any videos like this, for example. So as I want to say, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, and at least you have an idea what to likely expect from me now that we're into spring, going into summer. But the wacky weather is always usual in Calgary, as this Calgary sports fans always has to endure year round. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.